everybody, what is going on? And welcome to my review of The Suicide Squad, which is not Suicide Squad, of course, which, came out a few years back. This is The Suicide Squad, written and directed by James Gunn. And look, I don't really need to go into what this movie is or who was in it or who it was by or anything, because it's pretty much a movie that everybody knows what it is by now, and most of the world has already seen it. But yeah, thanks to the pandemic, I only got to see it tonight. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So I'm just going to dive straight into my thoughts on this film, because it is a movie that initially I wasn't going to review, because there's been a ton of really amazing reviews for this film. I mean, it famously debuted at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes and went down a little bit, but, from everything I've heard, everyone's reviews have just been amazing. The general discourse on Twitter has been that this is James Gunn's best film, and it's the best DCEU film, and it's the best. So I kind of thought that going into this film, I was going to be heavily biased, I've got to admit, because one, I'm a massive DC fan. DC has had my heart since I was a kid. James Gunn is one of my most favorite filmmakers of all time. I would put this guy in probably top 3. Naturally, Margot Robbie is one of my most favorite human beings on the planet, and possibly my favorite actress. Nathan Fillion is one of my most favorite actors. And of course, Harley Quinn is quite possibly my most favorite fictional character of all time. So there was a lot of things that I thought I was just going to be absolutely mind blown because of this film. And I was going to walk out just going, oh my God, best film ever, but everyone's already said it. So what's the point? I didn't love this film. I hate to say it, but yeah, I liked it. I did like it. I just didn't love it. So yeah, because of that, because of the feeling I had by the end of it, I was kind of like, okay, maybe I do have a few things to say about it. So in terms of what I did like about The Suicide Squad, I thought the direction was great. One of the reasons why I love James Gunn so goddamn much is his freaking insanity. I mean, some of the stuff that this guy has done in the past, if you look at movies like Slither and Super and, other movies he's directed, even the Guardians films, there's always been this quirkiness of his. Guardians, it was kind of toned down a little bit, obviously, because, the studio probably put the brakes on it a little bit. But, I love his weirdness. I mean, that's one of the things, even, in terms of things like the novel that he wrote, The Toy Collector, just everything about this guy, I just love. So yeah, it was well directed. I loved the way that the characters were all written. They were fantastic. I love the relationships between them. I love that, one of the things that Gunn does so well is taking these oddball characters that are kind of misfits, or loners, or people that don't have friends and stuff. And they worked really well in this. I love the relationship between Bloodsport and Ratcatcher 2. They were amazing. Ratcatcher 2, she was freaking brilliant. I love how much heart and warmth she brought to this team. So the relationship between those two was great. The dynamic between Peacemaker and Bloodsport I thought was awesome. The way that they were constantly trying to one-up each other. That was really, really well done. There was a lot of really great dynamics between everybody. King Shark Nanui was amazing, absolutely amazing. I adored him. And also the way that Harley Quinn was written in this film, I thought was fantastic. She really reminded me this time around of the comic book version, because James Gunn is a genuine comic book fan. I mean, a lot of directors in the past for a lot of, Marvel and DC films have claimed that they're a big comic books fan, but, this guy is the real deal, and it shows. There's a lot of stuff in this film that reminded me of the John Ostrander Suicide Squad run from the 80s, I think it was. Yeah, it really had a genuine sort of feeling, and like I said, Harley Quinn, I just love what they did with her character in this. She had that, she was probably a little bit more insane than we've seen her in the past, I think, just a fraction. There was a moment, I'm not going to give any spoilers in this, by the way, so you're safe here. A bit where she's got something happening with a guy named Silvio. That's all I'll say. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. I love the outcome of that whole little subplot. I thought that was great, and her little monologue that she has, I thought was terrific. I love the whole Milton gag. I loved, there were so many things that I really loved about her character in this. I love the setting. I love that finally we get to see Corto Maltese put on the big screen. We've heard it ever since, I think the first mention of it was maybe Tim Burton's Batman in '89. And, it's been in the comics prior to that. It was really cool, that we got to see it, and it was something a bit different to Gotham City or Metropolis or whatever. This South American sort of jungle setting and, the small city sort of thing. I really, really dug it. The special effects in the film were absolutely top-notch. They were flawless. King Shark was so believable. You never questioned for a single moment that, he was a CG character. He was really believable. Starro the Conqueror, I thought he looked great. He? I don't know. Would you call it a he? In terms of all the visual effects and everything, great. Most of the humor I thought was good. Most of it. Some of it, I don't know. Okay, so getting into what I didn't like about this film. It started off great. I really loved the start of it. I was totally on board. It was probably about halfway through, I just sort of noticed that I wasn't as invested in it as I should be. And I couldn't really figure out why until I gave it some thought later on. So, hear me out. Like I said earlier, I love James Gunn's quirkiness. That is one of the main reasons why he is one of my most favorite filmmakers of all time. But I just don't know if it really worked in this film. A lot of people are praising DC or Warner Brothers for letting him just, taking the leash off and letting him do his thing. That didn't really work for me. And again, it's weird saying that because I normally love his bizarreness, but I just thought it was a bit too much in this film. Particularly Polka Dot Man, played by Deb Destelmalchian. Look, you know who I'm talking about. There was this whole thing about him and his mum. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. I thought it was overused. The first time you see that gag, I thought, okay, that's kind of funny. But moving on after that, it just was sort of it just took me out of the scene every time it happened. And particularly towards the end, it was sort of that is really not working for me. Overall, I thought, the tone of the film was just way too askew for me. It was funny, but it wasn't. It was sort of a big mixed bag, really. Some of the characters as well I thought were underused. The Thinker, played by Peter Capaldi, I thought was kind of useless. I know he did have a purpose, but it wasn't anything that great. And to be honest, even though I like the way that Harley's character was written, I kind of thought she was sort of a bit of a missed opportunity. She didn't really do a lot. And hear me out. I know there were, she had some fantastic action sequences. Margot Robbie did some great stunt work in it on her own. You could tell when it was actually her. But in the grand scheme of things, her character, I know she did do something at the end, but it could have been anyone. Like, she didn't have anything really sort of special, that was her in this thing. So yeah, that felt a bit flat for me. And one other thing that I kind of felt with the movie, as much as I loved Starro and just, the whole mission and everything, I didn't really feel like the stakes were all that high. I don't know. Again, it just sort of felt a little bit disjointed or whatever. Like, the whole Starro thing, it sort of doesn't really happen till the end, and there's other things that are going on. Again, I can't really say too much because of spoilers, but just overall, I didn't really feel like the stakes were that high. Like, in terms of, look, it's famously been told that a lot of characters die in this film. Everybody knows that. Like, James Gunn himself said, don't get attached to anybody because there's a good chance that they're not going to live through it. So, there is that element of danger to the characters, but in terms of overall sort of, like, the whole story arc, I just didn't really feel like there was a sense of urgency or anything really kind of compelling our characters to, get to this mission and do their thing. So yeah, that felt a bit flat for me. Overall, I didn't get that sense of fun that I had with, say, Birds of Prey. Like, the first time I saw Birds of Prey, I walked out of the theater and I just wanted to go straight back in and go for another ride. I had so much fun with that movie. This film, I did like it. I just didn't love it. I kind of walked out feeling a little bit flat. Like, I didn't have that sort of big excitement of like, oh my God, that movie was so much fun. So overall, it was a little bit disappointing for me. But look, that's not to say it's a bad film by any means. It is good. Like, go out and see it. I know I'm in the minority when I say, I wasn't that impressed with it. Like, obviously, so many people are going in to see it 2-3 times already, and that is awesome. So definitely go see it. Go see it on the big screen if you can, because, yeah, I definitely think it is a sort of movie that benefits from a huge screen. I will get it on Blu-ray when it comes out, especially if it's got special features in it, because I do love James Gunn's commentaries and behind-the-scenes things, and so fingers crossed that it's going to have a really awesome Blu-ray release. But look, that being said, yeah, like right now I'm not in a huge rush to go see it again or anything. I probably will, maybe. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But that being said, what am I going to give this movie out of 10? I don't know. Like, okay, let's say 5. Like, we'll use 5 as a starting point. 5 to me is an average movie that is forgettable, and I probably wouldn't see it again. It wasn't that. But it probably wasn't as high as like a 8 or even a 7 or so. All right, I'm going to give The Suicide Squad a 6.5 out of 10. All right, so there you go. That's what I thought of The Suicide Squad. Be gentle with me. Don't hit that thumbs down button too hard now, because yeah, I know this movie's got a lot of people who absolutely loved it, and it's like anytime someone says anything bad about it, it's like, oh, how dare you have an opinion. But look, I had to be honest. Like I said, going into this thing, I really thought I was going to be biased as all heck. And yeah, but I just couldn't really let my biases, get in the way of what I really thought about it. So there you go. That's my honest opinion. But anyway, over to you guys. Let me know what you thought of it, because I know everybody has seen it. There's like starving kids in Africa who have seen this movie before I did. But yeah, so let me know what you thought of it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop me some comments either here, Facebook, or Twitter. All the social media links are in the description below, because I like to talk about movies and I would love to talk about movies with you. Catch you next time.
Click subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest movie reviews. Skynet will be taking over any day now, so what have you got to lose? Nyah.